don't even worry about any of this until you have a product or service that people love, because you can't pour gasoline on wet leaves and expect it to burn. So make sure you've got a good product or service that 9 out of 10 people are happy with. People are coming back, and then you've got that figured out. And now it's time to figure out a way to build a flywheel effect at the core of what you're doing so it'll grow itself.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Workergenix Mastermind Podcast. I'm host Harley Green. Today, we have a special guest, Bryan Clayton, who is not just another CEO. He's a visionary and groundbreaker. As the mastermind behind GreenPal, an innovative online marketplace dubbed the Uber for lawn care by Entrepreneur Magazine, he's revolutionizing the way homeowners connect with local lawn care pros. It boasts over 200,000 active users, and GreenPal pulses with thousands of transactions daily. And it's a testament to Bryan's knack for understanding market needs. And he's going to share some interesting tips on a topic I think everyone listening is going to be very interested in about growing their business. Bryan, welcome to the podcast.
Harley, it's great to be here, man. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. So, Bryan, maybe you can share a little background about your story and being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so currently I'm CEO, co-founder of a company called GreenPal. GreenPal is like the Uber for lawn mowing, or the DoorDash or Instacart for lawn mowing. If you have grass outside your home, somebody has to mow it rather than mowing it yourself. You just download GreenPal, you pop your address in, and then lawn mowing services compete for your need. And then you hire one and they come out and do it. And if you like how they did, you push a button and they just come out every week. And GreenPal is nationwide in the United States, around 300,000 people using it to get lawn mowing every week. And it's a 10-year overnight success. My two co-founders and I have been at this for a little over a decade now. And it all started in 1994 when I mowed the neighbor's yard and got paid $20. That was my first taste of entrepreneurship. And a lot of people get started mowing yards and as kind of their first business. I kind of just was the lawn guy and stuck with that. I grew that little lawn mowing business to eventually over 150 employees over a 15-year period of time, grew it to around $10 million a year in sales. And then it was acquired by a national company that operates all over the country. And so I guess 25 years running a lawn care business, running a landscaping business, and now running a network that connects lawn care services with consumers is how I ended up where I am.
That's awesome. That's such a smart idea, just leveraging technology and kind of gig economy ideas that people have to connect people with these services that everybody needs. It's a homeowner, but it's often difficult to get started. I know when I was staying in our house in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we first moved there and trying to find landscaping services and trying to track guys down. And so many of them did not leverage technology, and trying to get an appointment with them to come out and just do an estimate was a nightmare. So having a technology like GreenPal sounds incredible. I wish I'd known about it before I was a digital nomad. So that's great. Well, Bryan, you have a topic, building a growth flywheel in business, no matter what size it is. Can you tell us kind of where this came about?
Yeah, so I guess it hit me in year 5 or 6 of my first business. Started off just me and a push mower, to me and a couple of crews going out every day, to me and 10 employees, and got my first $1 million a year in revenue. And it hit me, I guess, at about $2 to $3 million in revenue. I realized that I wasn't in the landscaping business at all. I was in the sales business, and I had to figure out a way to create a sales engine at the core of what we did. And so that took about 5 years to build out a sales team. And eventually we started going after larger maintenance contracts for apartment buildings and office parks, things like that. So kind of naturally progressed into that to understand that, okay, we're not just in the landscaping business, we're in the sales business. We have to get really good at that. And then navigated that business getting acquired. And that was really the only reason why I was able to get acquired, was because it had a good sales engine at its core.
I'm curious how that transition happened from going from doing the landscaping to more of the maintenance. Is that just a function of hey, if you've got a good sales system, people come to you, you're solving problems, and you saw a new opportunity, or were you looking to get into that industry?
So in the first business, it started off as a maintenance, landscaping maintenance. And then we did installations, as a complementary to that. But the bread and butter, the glue that held it together was basic lawn mowing. And then that eventually grew into maintenance contracts for restaurants, banks, commercial properties, things like that. And then it became it was a maintenance oriented firm, about 150 employees, 90 trucks going out every day, all going all over Middle Tennessee, maintaining commercial properties. And getting that type of clientele, no, they do not come to you. It is a very fierce push. It's very competitive, and you have to have a sales engine that understands, okay, these are our types of customers. Here's what we do differently than our competitors. Here's how we prospect them. Here's how we create something that solves their problems, and then keep their business. And so that took a long time to figure out. And that was, nobody taught me how to be a founder or a business owner. Nobody teaches any of us how to do that. You just do it wrong a lot, and then you kind of figure out something that works. And I wish I had known that, day one, that the rendering of the service is table stakes. The actual distribution and sales of it is where all the value is created. And then when I sold that company, started GreenPal, I had to kind of reteach myself a lot of things. One was transitioning from a blue-collar entrepreneur to a tech entrepreneur. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I'd never built a website, and I'd never gone to school for that sort of thing. So the first thing I did was I used every bit of technology I could that was doing something similar to what I wanted to do, because I wanted to build an app that connected buyers and sellers in the landscaping business. So I drove for Uber. I delivered groceries on Instacart. I delivered food on DoorDash. I rented out my spare bedroom on Airbnb. Walked dogs on Rover and Wag. And at the time, there was another company called HomeJoy that did home cleaning. So I cleaned houses on HomeJoy.
Wow.
All of these companies had raised tens of millions of dollars, in some cases hundreds of millions of dollars, in Uber's case billions of dollars. And so they all had huge, enormous teams and really professional product designers and scientists that engineered these things to where these products would grow themselves almost. That they had a flywheel at their core in terms of, okay, customers come in, and just the natural course of that generates more customers. And so I started noticing that while using these things from the inside out, and kind of figuring out how I could apply what they were doing to my little humble world of lawn mowing. In the case of Uber, I came to understand that, okay, if they get a customer and match them with a driver, and that goes well, that means that customer refers more customers, which means more customers on the networks, which means more drivers, less wait time. Less wait time means more efficiency, more customers, which means more drivers. And this whole thing reinforces itself. And so I started to apply that to what I was doing in lawn mowing, and it's kind of the same almost cycle. It's like, okay, if I get more lawn pros, that means that prices will go down. And if the prices go down, it means happier consumers, and so on. That was kind of an epiphany that I had, I guess, year 2 or 3. And it came from using Uber from the inside out, using it as a consumer, using it as a driver. And so I think for any business owner, it doesn't matter what you're doing in whatever industry, if you can look at other successful tech companies and look at their flywheel effect that they have in the core of the business, and map something like that to what you're doing. Even if you're, I don't know, and pick any business, home remodeling. Let's say you do home remodel, and you go out, you sell a job, you close it, and then you get paid and you move on to the next one. Well, what if you had some sort of other process where you documented it step by step the whole way through with video and photo, and you trained your techs on how to do that, and then they sent it to a Dropbox link, and then a VA took that, put it on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and everywhere else, and then another person figured out how to promote that, and the next thing you know, now you got a flywheel. It's like every single job we do is this shareable unit that is going out into the ether, that then people see, they get exposed to, they find out about our services, and then we get more work from that. And the more work we get, the better staff we can hire, the better salespeople we can hire, the better designers we can hire, and so on. So now you've got like a little flywheel effect. So I think you can apply this type of thinking to any business that you're in if you really dissect it down to like the step-by-step process of how you would pull it off. And a lot of times it comes down to maybe like a shareable thing, like a shareable unit of something, like maybe some media, some video, some photos, but not always. In the Uber case, have that. So I think it can be helpful for founders to think like this. Now, all that to be said, don't even worry about any of this until you have a product or service that people love, because you can't pour gasoline on wet leaves and expect it to burn. So make sure you've got a good product or service that 9 out of 10 people are happy with. People are coming back, and then you've got that figured out. And now it's time to figure out a way to build a flywheel effect at the core of what you're doing, so it'll grow itself.
I love that. And thinking of an example, sometimes it helps people to get in that mindset by just thinking about products that they use on a daily basis and how they heard about them, and try to replicate that kind of framework. Because if you just come to someone like, hey, make a flywheel in your business, they probably will look at you kind of funny, be like, what does that even mean? An example that kind of was interesting for my businesses is we had a home remodeler who was doing a renovation on a house flip for us. And they used Monday.com dashboard view to show the progress on that project. They had the photos and videos as they completed. They had the status updates and, detailed notes about what was going on. And I thought that was great. That was really innovative compared to any other contractor that I'd ever worked with. And I go look at the bottom of the page and it says powered by Monday.com. And so I clicked that and I'm like, wow. And now we use Monday.com for the basis of all of our businesses. So that was like a flywheel that Monday is, and they provide a great product. And then people use it, and then other people sign up and use it. And now our clients all use it. So it's just like, there's a perfect example.
Exactly. Yeah. And so Monday.com, probably a $10, $20 billion company. What does that matter to me? I'm running a $200,000 a year, home cleaning business. Well, you can learn from these big players and apply little things that they're doing that is making their business grow. Marketing is not these days is not just going out buying Google ads, Facebook ads. It is figuring out at the core what your business is and the actions that your business does. How can we make those propel the company forward and grow from internally? It's like the product or service and the marketing really are kind of one. And it's not like, okay, I go hire a marketing firm. No, it's like marketing is and distribution and growth. And that flywheel is internal inside of the business. It's not outside of the business. It doesn't sit off to the side. And so if that goes for Monday.com, $20 billion company, or humble home cleaning business or home painting business, these principles are the same.
What are some strategies or techniques that a business owner could start employing to start figuring out how to create their own business flywheel? I mean, we've talked about looking at other businesses and kind of trying out other things like you did, be an Uber driver. Is there like mindset shifts or like resources that you recommend people take a look at when they're getting started here?
Yeah, the first thing, like I mentioned earlier, make sure you have something that is working and that people love to use. And now you have to figure out a way to grow that. So don't try to do this too early because you're just you're like Steve Jobs says, you put sprinkles on dog crap. And so don't do this too early. But once you have something that's working and the only thing you're lacking is sales, now you got to figure, okay, I've got a really good operating core. I'm able to get to all my customers. Now I want to grow. How do I eat this elephant of trying to build a flywheel in the center of my business? It just starts with simple things. One of my favorite quotes is action produces information. And so you have to kind of think that way. You have to think about like, okay, this is an experiment. I'm going to do little things and see what works. And one of the first things you can start with is just trying to figure out how to get more reviews for your business. That's a flywheel. We got a customer and we got 10, let's say we got 10 customers. We serviced all 10 or sold all 10 a product. All 10 are happy. And we're going to set a goal for 3 of them to review us somewhere. Trustpilot, Google My Business, Yelp, Facebook. Those are the main ones. And let's just see if we can close the loop on that flywheel. Because what happens is some activity happened, person had an experience. Now they're going to share that out into the world and tell the world how you did and if they were happy.
So Bryan, tell us, like, someone's got a great service. They've kind of cracked that nut. They know people like it. They've got maybe a dozen or so clients that have been happy. The next step you were mentioning was getting reviews. What are some techniques people can use to get reviews? We know it can be challenging to get clients to look at us again, right? And take the time to write a review. What kind of things do you recommend people do there?
The whole thing we're trying to do here is close the loop, because a flywheel is a big circle. It's just spinning. And so ideally that flywheel spins quickly and it's just like you're growing and hiring people and everything's going well. But the first couple revolutions of getting that flywheel going are really hard. It's like pushing on this thing and really slow. So it's going to be hard at first. So start small and something that is simple with just like getting reviews. And like, let's not worry about anything else until we create a flywheel for getting reviews. And so it's like, we have a customer, we service them, they're happy. Out of 10, we have 10 customers, we service all of them, all 10 are happy. Let's just set a goal for 3 of them to give us a review. So that's a flywheel. That happened. That's a revolution that's happened in your business where you've done something and some exhaust came out the other end that is going to help your business grow. And so let's start with that. And so once, okay, now let's use our home remodeler as an example of, okay, we did 10 home remodeling jobs. We got to track this. And there's software platforms that will help you track it now where you understand, okay, we sent them an email. We sent them a text message. We sent them a follow-up email. We also asked them when we closed out the job, and we got 4 out of 10. Okay, how do we get that to 5 out of 10? So just tune that. Spend a year building that. Don't worry about anything else. And so now you understand, okay, this is how the workflows happen through my business. And now I have created some exhaust to where now when people search for Joe's remodeling service on Facebook, on Google, on Yelp, everywhere, all these great reviews are like 4.5 and up. And now that helps you get more business. And so now just doing business helps you get more business. And so that's a flywheel. Really simple, but that's where you start. Then once you've got that system nailed, start to expand from there. And it could be like in our example of content. With GreenPal, we do this where every single lawn that gets mowed on the GreenPal network gets published to that lawn care provider's profile page. And so now he's got this whole menu of past jobs. So now he's incentivized to do a good job. And all of this data is going out into Google search, social media. So people, when they're looking for a lawn mowing service, they discover that vendor and all of this rich organic data that doesn't exist anywhere else. That's another big one. It's like this is original, unique content that doesn't exist anywhere else. And you as the business owner, as the proprietor, can create that. If you put it in the workflow of the day-to-day procedures in the business, now you've created this shareable unit that goes out into the world that's going to get you more business. And that's a flywheel. And so you kind of have to think in those terms after you've nailed the execution of whatever it is you do in product or service land. Like that is going well. Now I got to figure out the distribution. I got to create a flywheel so this machine grows itself. And then you can leave for 3 months, come back, and it's actually bigger. That's the goal.
Yeah. Now, when people they've got the reviews going, they've got the social media content, the website content going out there, and they have the flywheel. It's going pretty well. A lot of times when we're talking about like people doing lawn mowing or the home remodelers, the guys that are usually starting that, kind of like you, they're out there doing the work. They're pushing the mower in most cases when they first get started. How are they able to like handle the incoming leads from the flywheel? Like, do you have certain recommendations on like use a virtual assistant, answer phones, or use some technology? What has worked well that you've seen with people that have the flywheel going?
Yeah, most people don't break out of self-employed land. Like they're in business for themselves, but they've just created a really good job for themselves. And that's okay. You can stay there and work in that dynamic for a decade and invest that money somewhere else and do just fine. But if you want to grow a business, you have to have a mindset shift of allocating time. And everybody says this, to work on the business, not in the business. But that's a lot easier said than done. And you have to really audit this. And for me, when I was first getting started, I would say, okay, Monday through Friday is in the business. I'm just trying to make sure customers are happy, vendors are getting paid, payroll's happening, taxes are getting paid, people are getting called back in the business, just making it work. And then Saturday and Sunday was on the business. And I would just pick one corner of the business and just try to build a system for it. And, in your example of, okay, well, now I got all these leads coming in. I don't have a sales process. I don't really know how to qualify them. Okay, well, let's take a Saturday and let's just figure out, okay, what is the routine? What is the system for how I handle these incoming leads? And I'm going to do it all myself. And then I'm going to figure out how I can offload aspects of this. Like you mentioned, a virtual assistant. That's a great way to do it. But nowadays, with a lot of new software coming out with AI, a lot of this stuff can be automated. But you have to take one little aspect of it. So it's like, okay, the person calling the phone number, what happens with that? Does it go to my cell phone number? Well, at first, yeah, it needs to, because I need to know how to architect my little prototype for this, how I architect my process for this. But then that phone call can go to a VA that you train to be basically you. I mean, it might take you 6 months to do that, but that's one little aspect of this that you got to spend a lot of time on, get it right, and then build that system. And so now you don't have to do that anymore. And you just keep doing that, rinse and repeat, do it yourself, and then figure out a way to put an employee, a freelancer, or a contractor in there to take it off your plate.
I love what you said there about figuring out a way to not to do it anymore. One of the phrases that my wife and I use in our businesses all the time when a challenge comes up or a new task that it's not our passion. It's not like why we got into doing that business to serve other people. We'll say, all right, how can I figure out a way to never have to do this again? It could be technology. It could be just, this doesn't have to happen. I'm just killing it. Or it could be, how do I create that system like you described? I'm going to figure it out, do the process myself. And then when I hand it off to someone who's capable to handle that, whether it's a VA or local staff, whatever that might be. And we found that the VAs are able to handle a surprising amount when you have that framework for them. If you've done it
That's
yourself and you can document it, maybe do a Zoom video recording of how you do that process and then hand that off to them to make a written procedure, it's amazing how successful that they can be doing that for you.
Yeah, which, by the way, it's harder to do everything you just said than to just do it yourself for another day.
It is.
And so it's actually the lazier thing to work 20 hours a day, being everywhere, doing everything yourself. It's actually more lazy, as weird as that sounds, to do it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, to do it that way versus really take a Saturday and just put your head down and break it down step by step. Create a scope of like a standard operating procedure, and then create the Loom videos to document how you want this done, and then work with a VA, and then they're going to screw it up, and then not go back to doing it yourself. Doing that again until you get the right person in there. That's actually more difficult and harder to do. And that's why most business owners never cross that chasm, because it's actually easier just to like work yourself to death and do all this stuff yourself and hate it.
Absolutely. There's so many little things like, well, it would take me longer to train someone to do this than just do it myself, but those add up. And then all of a sudden, like you said, you're doing 80-hour work weeks and you've just locked yourself into your own job. You're your own boss, but you're locked in and working more hours, probably making less per hour than if you just gotten the job working for somebody else.
Exactly. Yeah. And you'll never break out of that until you have the mindset shift and actually dedicate the time to work in the business and not on the business. Because the common excuse is, and I've been guilty of this, I don't have time to do any of that. I'm just trying to keep my head above water. Okay, well, that's Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sunday is on the business. We got to just pick one little corner of it. It's kind of like an emergency room in the hospital. It's like you're triaging for what is the most important thing at this stage of the game that I need to create a process around. Take a month, 3 months, maybe even a year to nail that. And then you move on to the next.
Yeah. So many people say they don't have time to train somebody. Well, the reason they don't have time yet is because they haven't made the investment to have someone start taking things off their plate and then be able to be freed up to have more time to work on the business. And it's amazing when people start doing that small investment on the little tasks, and then they're able to have more time than maybe Fridays and the weekend get to be working on the business. And it's Thursday,
Exactly.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday working on the business. And suddenly you're a business owner. You're not an operator anymore.
That's right. That's the goal. Saturdays and Sundays turn into, well, now I can be at home with my kids Saturday and Sunday. I don't have to do anything Saturday and Sunday. Now, Monday through Thursday is on the business, and Friday or Monday's in the business, and then Tuesday through Friday's on the business. You're trying to flip that, but you got to start somewhere. And most founders, most business owners don't ever start. And because honestly, I don't mean to sound negative saying this because I've been guilty of it myself, but it is just the lazy thing to do, to come in at 6 a.m. and work till 6 p.m. and just work yourself to death, versus the difficult thing to do is to create the system and the process and the routine to abstract a lot of these things away.
Absolutely. Well, Bryan, before we wrap things up, are there any other tips or resources that you want to share with our audience about, getting to that final sales flywheel for growing their business?
Yeah, really, step by step, you got to treat everything as an experiment. A lot of times in life and in business, we have this cognitive overhead of, I don't want to do that because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be worth it. I don't want to implement this piece of software because it's probably going to be a waste of my time and I'm going to waste my money. So I'm just going to keep doing it the old way with cobbling together spreadsheets and Post-it notes and voicemails and then and all that stuff's leaking out the bottom. It's like, well, I don't want to do this because I don't know how that's going to work. And so it's like completely just look at it as an experiment and just say, okay, action produces information. I'm going to try this for a week, see what happens. And I guarantee you I'm going to know more on Saturday than I did on Monday about how this might work or if it's a waste of time. And I'm going to move on to the next thing. So reduce every bit of this down to an experiment. Think as though you are a scientist trying to figure out how to make this thing work. I think can kind of alleviate a lot of the decision making and just make it a no-brainer, because that's held me up a lot too. So look at it that way.
Awesome. Well, Bryan, you've shared a ton of valuable information with our audience today. Thank you so much for sharing these tips and your story. If people want to learn more or get some more advice on building a business flywheel and learn more about you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, Harley. I enjoyed this chat. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Just Google my name, Bryan Clayton, and then my company, GreenPal. Find me on Instagram. I'm active there, Bryan M. Clayton, or just shoot me an email. You can go to my website, greenpal.com. My email's on there. And if anybody is in the lawn mowing business, wants to try out our platform, check it out. Or if you need to get a grass cutting service, check it out, greenpal.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bryan.
Thanks, Harley.